Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought a simple choice like not wearing a bra would turn into something so unexpected, something that completely shook my world. It all started on a quiet afternoon, just me and my stepson at home, nothing unusual going on, or so I thought. You see, blending families isn't always easy, especially when emotions run deep and boundaries feel fragile. I'm not here to tell you a scandalous tale, but rather a real, raw story about how small moments can spiral into something bigger than you imagine. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to Mark for just over a year. He has a son, Jake, who's about 20, just stepping into adulthood, trying to figure out his place in the world. Jake and I have always had a polite relationship, sometimes awkward but respectful. We never really crossed any lines, and I've always tried to keep things clear and appropriate because, honestly, blending families takes work. But that day changed everything. It was a warm summer afternoon, and I decided to lounge around the house in something comfortable, no bra, just a loose shirt. Nothing inappropriate, just me trying to be relaxed in my own space. Jake was home too, catching up on some work from his college classes. We were sharing the living room, both doing our own thing. I didn't expect him to notice or react, but as the day went on, I started to feel a strange tension in the air, something unspoken but heavy. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's glance or behavior makes you question everything? That's exactly what happened. Jake's usual polite distance seemed to disappear, replaced by something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I started wondering, was it just a coincidence, or was something else going on beneath the surface? I don't want to jump to conclusions or say things that could be misunderstood, but the truth is, I felt like the dynamics between us shifted in a way I never anticipated. It wasn't just awkward anymore, it felt charged and honestly a little scary. What does it mean when a simple choice about your comfort triggers this kind of reaction? How do you navigate boundaries when they suddenly blur? This story isn't about judgment or shame. It's about exploring complicated feelings and the unexpected ways family relationships can be tested. I want you to think about your own experiences. Have you ever noticed someone you thought you knew suddenly acting differently? How did you handle it? As I write this, I'm still trying to figure out what to do next. Should I confront Jake? Should I tell my husband? Or should I just pretend everything is normal and hope this strange tension fades away? I'm sharing this story with you because sometimes the hardest part is admitting when things feel off, even when you don't want to make waves. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you keep quiet or face the situation head-on? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want, vote in the poll right here. What's the best way to handle a situation like this? Your opinions might help me decide what to do next. For now, I'll leave you with this. Sometimes, the smallest choices have the biggest consequences. And sometimes, you realize you don't really know the people you live with as well as you thought. Stay tuned for the next part, because things are about to get even more complicated. The tension I felt that afternoon didn't just disappear when the day ended. Instead, it seemed to settle in the corners of the house, like a quiet storm waiting to break. I kept replaying Jake's looks over and over in my mind, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was different. Something had shifted between us, and I couldn't ignore it. Jake has always been a bit of a mystery to me. Mark talks about him like he's this responsible, mature young man, but I've seen the other side too, the part where he's still figuring out who he is and testing limits. He's got that restless energy that comes with being on the edge of adulthood, caught between the safety of home and the freedom of the outside world. Sometimes I wonder if he feels out of place, especially with me around, someone new trying to step into his family. Mark is kind and supportive, but sometimes I think he doesn't fully realize the subtle changes happening under the surface. We all try to act normal, but the atmosphere feels heavy. I want to believe this is just a phase or some misunderstanding, but the way Jake acts when he thinks no one's watching makes me uneasy. There's a tension that's hard to describe, like he's struggling with feelings he doesn't know how to express. I started noticing small things, Jake lingering longer in the room when I'm around, those stolen glances that quickly disappear when I catch him, and the way his tone changes when he talks to me. It's confusing because I don't want to misread his behavior, but I can't deny the growing awkwardness between us. I found myself asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. How do you handle it when someone close starts acting in ways that feel inappropriate but aren't clear enough to confront? When do you step in, and when do you hold back to keep peace? The boundaries we thought were solid are now blurry, and every interaction feels like walking on thin ice. Mark hasn't noticed yet, or maybe he's chosen not to. I don't blame him, he loves his son and trusts him. But I can't help but feel caught in the middle, a silent observer of a tension that threatens to pull us apart. The house that once felt like a safe place now feels like a stage where unspoken emotions play out in silence. I've tried to keep things light, to act normal, but it's hard when every look and every word feels loaded with meaning. I catch myself second-guessing everything, my choices, my reactions, even my presence in this family. It's a strange place to be, wanting to protect what we have, but feeling powerless against something I can't name. I wonder if Jake is struggling with his own feelings, confused, maybe even scared. We all carry secrets and shadows, but when those shadows start affecting your everyday life, it becomes impossible to ignore. I want to help, but I'm afraid of making things worse. And the question that haunts me most is whether this tension will destroy the fragile balance we've worked so hard to build. What would you do if you were me? Would you try to talk to Jake directly, or wait and see if things change? Should I tell Mark, or is it better to keep this to myself for now? These are questions I'm still grappling with, and I'm not sure I'll find answers anytime soon. As the days pass, the silence between us grows heavier, and the unspoken feelings become harder to hide. I can only hope that whatever this is, we'll find a way through it, because right now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something I don't fully understand, and I'm not sure how far I'm willing to fall. The days that followed felt like walking through fog, everything was unclear, and every interaction with Jake felt like navigating a minefield. I tried to keep things normal, but it was impossible. Even Mark seemed a little distant, caught up with work, maybe sensing something but not sure what. Sometimes I wondered if Jake was doing the same, hiding his feelings behind that guarded look he always wears. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation between Mark and Jake. They were in the kitchen, voices low, but I caught enough to know Jake was upset about something. Mark was trying to calm him, saying things about responsibility and growing up. It was a glimpse into Jake's world, a reminder that beneath his tough exterior, he was struggling to find his place, not just in the family, but in life. At the same time, I noticed changes in how Mark treated me. He seemed more protective, almost like he was sensing a tension, but didn't want to confront it. It made me feel caught between two people I cared about deeply, unsure of how to support either of them without making things worse. The whole house felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. There were moments when Jake would catch my eye, and for a brief second, I thought I saw regret there, or was it confusion? I didn't want to believe that our relationship had crossed any lines, but the tension was undeniable. I kept asking myself, what's really going on inside his head? Is he just confused, or is something deeper happening? And if I try to talk to him, will it make everything worse? Sometimes I caught myself thinking about the boundaries we set, how important they are, yet how easily they can be blurred when emotions get complicated. This isn't just about me or Jake, it's about the delicate balance of a blended family trying to find harmony. How do you protect that balance when everything feels so fragile? I want to hear from you. What would you do in my situation? Should I confront Jake and try to clear the air, or should I give it time and space? Would you tell Mark or keep it to yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I really need your advice. For now, the tension remains, thick and heavy, and I know this story isn't over. Something is coming, and I'm not sure how prepared I am for it. The tension in the house grew heavier with every passing day, like a storm about to break, but refusing to show its full fury. Jake's behavior became more unpredictable, sometimes distant, other times restless and quick to snap. I tried to keep my distance, hoping that space would ease the tension, but it only made the silence between us louder, more suffocating. I could feel Mark watching us both, his silence filled with worry he wouldn't voice. One evening, everything seemed to come to a head. I was sitting in the living room when Jake came home later than usual, his expression unreadable. There was something different about him, an edge I hadn't seen before. We exchanged a glance, and for a split second, I thought I saw pain and frustration flicker in his eyes. But then he looked away, shutting down whatever he was feeling. Mark wasn't home yet, and the house felt too quiet, like the calm before a storm. I wanted to say something to break the silence, but the words caught in my throat. What could I say that wouldn't make things worse? What could I do when the person closest to me seemed to be slipping away behind a wall I couldn't climb? I found myself wondering if Jake was battling something he couldn't share, a secret or feeling too heavy to carry alone. Was this just about me, or was there more to his silence and distance? The questions haunted me, but no answers came. Instead, the silence stretched longer, filled with unspoken emotions and tension that felt almost electric. I thought about talking to Mark, about telling him everything, but I hesitated. Would he understand? Would it tear our family apart? Or would silence only make the situation worse? Every option seemed risky, every choice a gamble. The uncertainty was crushing, and I felt trapped between wanting to protect Jake and fearing what might happen if I didn't. The lines between right and wrong, comfort and discomfort, blurred into a tangled mess that I wasn't sure I could untangle. As I sat there, waiting for Mark to come home, I realized that whatever was coming next would change everything. The question wasn't if, but when. And I wasn't ready, but I knew I couldn't hide from it any longer. What do you think will happen next? Should I face this head-on or wait for Jake to open up? Share your thoughts in the comments. I need your support now more than ever. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, the unexpected happened. Mark came home earlier than usual that night, his face tired but calm, carrying a sense of unease that instantly made me sit up straighter. I wanted to tell him everything, to finally lift the weight of silence that had been crushing me, but before I could speak, Jake appeared behind him, eyes dark and restless. The moment their eyes met, the tension in the room skyrocketed. Jake didn't say a word, but his body language was sharp, defensive, like he was holding back something dangerous. Mark glanced at me, a silent question hanging in the air. I could feel the invisible line between us stretching thinner and thinner. Then, without warning, Jake dropped a bombshell, something I never saw coming. He confessed that the tension wasn't just about me or some awkward feelings. There was something else, something he had been hiding for months. He told us about a secret struggle he'd been facing, one that explained some of his sudden outbursts and distance. It wasn't just about fitting into the family or dealing with changes. It was deeper, darker, and suddenly everything felt more real, more urgent. I could see the pain in his eyes as he spoke, a raw honesty that shook me to my core. Mark looked shocked but kept his composure, trying to understand what Jake was going through. I felt torn, relieved that the truth was finally out, but terrified of what this meant for all of us. This revelation changed everything. The fragile piece we'd been clinging to seemed to shatter right before my eyes. I sat there, heart pounding, wondering how we could move forward from this. How do you support someone dealing with secrets like these? How do you rebuild trust when the ground beneath you feels like it's shifting? I want to ask you, if you were in our shoes, how would you react? Would you confront the problem head-on, or try to give space and time? What would you say to someone you love who's hiding a painful secret? The house felt colder, heavier, and the air was thick with unspoken questions and fears. This wasn't just a family issue anymore, it was something that would test us all in ways we hadn't imagined. I don't know how this story will end, but one thing's for sure, the next steps will be the hardest yet. Stay with me because this isn't over. The real challenge is just beginning. The night felt like it held its breath as Jake finally opened up about what had been weighing on him. His voice was quiet but steady as he admitted to struggling with anxiety and feeling overwhelmed by all the changes in our family. The pressure of trying to be perfect, to fit in, to hide his real feelings, it was all crashing down on him. Hearing this, I realized how much I had misunderstood. This wasn't about awkward feelings or tension between us. It was about a young man fighting his own battles, trying to find a way through the storm inside. Mark stepped closer, his eyes softening with understanding. For the first time in weeks, I saw hope flicker between us. We really talked for the first time, breaking down the walls that had built up around us. Jake's honesty was the key that unlocked something fragile but real. We promised to support him, to be patient, and to rebuild trust together. But just as the weight started to lift, a new surprise hit me, something I didn't expect at all. Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter. It wasn't addressed to us, but to someone else, a secret he had kept hidden. The letter revealed a side of his life none of us knew, a friend he'd been struggling with, someone who'd been influencing him in ways we never imagined. The revelation was a shockwave through the room. Suddenly, the conflict wasn't just internal or between us, it was part of a larger picture we hadn't seen. It changed everything again, but this time, we were ready to face it together. I looked at Jake, seeing him not just as my stepson, but as a young man fighting for his future, and I knew we had to be stronger than ever. This story isn't just about boundaries or family drama, it's about understanding, patience, and the unexpected ways life tests us. What would you do if you were in my place? Would you stand by someone through their darkest moments, even when the path is unclear? Thank you for staying with me through this journey. The next chapter is just beginning, and together, we'll face whatever comes next. The days after that intense night were filled with small but meaningful steps toward healing. Jake began opening up more, not just to Mark and me, but to himself. We made space for him to talk about his fears and struggles without judgment, and slowly the heavy silence that had filled the house started to lift. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of tension and uncertainty, but for the first time, we were facing everything together. Mark took on a more active role, showing patience and understanding that helped Jake feel safe. And I learned that family isn't just about blood or titles, it's about standing by each other when life gets complicated and messy. The boundaries we once worried about weren't walls, but bridges that could connect us if we built them carefully. Jake's letter, the secret he'd been hiding, became a turning point, not a source of shame, but a reminder that everyone carries unseen burdens. It made us realize that love and support don't come from ignoring problems, but confronting them with honesty and care. Looking back, I see how fragile yet resilient a blended family can be. We stumbled, made mistakes, and faced uncomfortable truths, but in the end, we chose to grow together. This story isn't just about one moment or one choice. It's about the ongoing journey of trust, respect, and understanding that defines real relationships. What do you think about how everything ended? Would you want to see what happens next? Or did this story give you enough to reflect on? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. If you found this story engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next.